You sit down to eat. Maybe it's lunch at your desk. Maybe it's dinner in front of a screen. You pick up your fork and you eat alone, without a single thought about it. But the real answer is far stranger. For nearly all of human history, doing that would have been almost unthinkable. Eating alone, quickly, without anyone watching, is one of the newest habits your species has ever developed. For most of the last 300,000 years, a meal wasn't just food. It was a transaction, and a public one. Before a single bite went into anyone's mouth, there was a ritual, and it had almost nothing to do with taste. It had to do with who got to eat, how much they got, and whether the group trusted you. Anthropologist Kim Hill spent years living alongside the Ache, a hunter-gatherer people in Paraguay, documenting how they handled food. When a hunter returned with meat, he didn't eat it himself first, and he didn't even decide who got what. The meat was distributed publicly, following social rules everyone understood without needing to be told. Hill found successful hunters routinely gave away the majority of what they caught, not because they were saints, because the system demanded it. Food sharing was insurance. If you shared meat on your good days, others shared with you on your bad ones. Anthropologist Wiessner documented something almost identical among the Jew Huansi San of the Kalahari. Meat distribution followed strict, almost ceremonial patterns. The person who owned the arrow that killed the animal, not necessarily the hunter who fired it, had the right to direct how it was divided. That separation stopped skilled hunters from accumulating power and kept the food supply tied to cooperation instead of individual glory. Isn't that the opposite of how you'd expect it to work? Wiessner found boastfulness around a kill was mocked, sometimes harshly, specifically to prevent status from concentrating in one person. Her research even documents a ritual of humbling a successful hunter in front of the group before anyone touched the food. The ritual before the meal was a social correction, keeping everyone roughly equal before anyone was allowed to eat. Here's where it gets stranger, because this wasn't just about fairness, it was about your nervous system. Evolutionary psychologist Dunbar has spent decades studying what holds human groups together, and one of his findings involves commensality, the act of eating together. His research suggests shared meals trigger the release of endorphins, the same chemicals involved in laughter and touch. Groups that regularly eat together report higher trust and stronger belonging than groups that don't. Your ancestors weren't chasing an endorphin hit consciously, but the ritual worked on them anyway. Before anyone ate, there was almost always a pause, a moment where eyes checked around the fire, confirming silently that this was happening together. That pause was the mechanism binding the group into something that could survive. Think about what's missing from your lunch at your desk. There's no pause, no shared confirmation. You just eat, because nothing about your environment demands more of you than that. This shift happened surprisingly recently. For most of agricultural history, eating together at a set table was still the norm. It wasn't until the last century that eating alone became the default. Fast food, desk lunches, meals eaten scrolling a phone, all of it removed the one thing that used to be non-negotiable. Witnesses. Your ancestors almost never ate without being seen eating, and that mattered because being seen meant being accountable to the group's rules about sharing. Archaeologist Martin Jones has traced evidence of communal meals back tens of thousands of years through hearth sites and ancient camp layouts. Jones argues the shared meal may be one of the oldest threads running through human social organization, older even than agriculture. That ritual likely shaped fairness itself, the instinct that makes you feel a flash of anger when someone gets more than their share. So here's the modern mirror. You still feel that flash of unfairness when a coworker takes credit they didn't earn. Some of that reaction is ancient, the ghost of a system that once required food and fairness to be handled in full view of the group, every day. You don't perform that ritual anymore. But the wiring that expected it is still fully intact, sitting quietly underneath modern habits that never ask it to activate. You sit down to eat. Maybe it's lunch at your desk. Maybe it's dinner in front of a screen. But somewhere underneath that ordinary moment, a much older version of you is still quietly waiting for someone else to sit down first.